Shaila was like this. Somebody was given the kibbutz of going up to light the menorah. They were a bit nervous, hadn't done it before, striking the match, etc. Struck the match the first time, they fell on the floor, broke. Second time, anyway, they finally got the shamas lit, and they light the shamas, and off they go to light the first light. And everyone says, bracha. It's too late. He's lit the first light, and it's night, whatever it is, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. He's now lit the first light. He's lit the first light. Can he make a bracha now on the remaining neirus? Yeah, I'm sure this has happened. I just stopped somebody this year happening over here. This happened. This is a question that was asked to Reb Kiva Eger. So in case you think that people didn't used to be nervous and forget to make the bracha, this is an old shaila. It's an old shaila. So Reb Kiva Eger asked this question. I want to go through this Reb Kiva Eger, this short tshuva of Reb Kiva Eger. It's got an incredible number of different important points that we can glean from here, not just about Chanukah, but other things as well. So here's the question. Somebody, it was actually on the eighth night, he forgot to make a bracha on the hadlokah, and he'd licked some of them before somebody stopped him and said, what about a bracha? And the question is, can he now make a bracha at this stage? So Reb Kiva Eger goes through this, and he says like this, well, he's done the mitzvah already. And the Ikka mitzvah is the first ner. The rest is only a din in a mahadrin. But on the other hand, says Reb Kiva Eger, maybe we can say he's no worse than somebody who is a roya. Somebody who doesn't have his own house, therefore doesn't have a place to light. He's in transit, so he doesn't have a place to light. So as a result of that, so now he's going to be in a situation where he hasn't got the mitzvah of lahadlik ner shel Chanukah, but Chazal were masakin that horoya, this is the Gemara, somebody who sees ner Chanukah, and he doesn't have a house to light, his wife isn't lighting for him, he's not going to light that night at all, so he makes the bracha of she'asa nisim lavasenu only, and on the first night, of course, shechiyonu together with it. That's the takana bechasareya. Says Reb Kiva Eger, he's no worse than the person who has takana bechasareya. Well, is that true? Is that true? Because it's quite clear in Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says in Tov Reish Ayin Vov, so Shulchan Aruch says the following. Who makes the bechas hareya? Shulchan Aruch says, Misha hidlik. He hasn't lit. Ve'eino osid lahadlik. He's not going to light ba'isa halaylo. V'gam ein madlikim olov b'seich beisoi. Nobody's lighting for him at home. Could be a very simple reason, because his wife's with him. So there's nobody to light. They're in transit, so there's nowhere for them to light. Kesharoya ner Chanukah, when this person sees a ner Chanukah of somebody else, mevorich she'asa nisim uba leil rishon mevorich gam kein shechiyonu. That's what he mentions. So that's the din. So therefore, says Reb Kiva Eger, it's true this person has lit up, but he didn't make any brachos. So therefore, he should be no worse than the person who is a raya. Says Reb Kiva Eger, but wait a minute, maybe he can't be worse.
He's seen it.
He's seen it. He's done the mitzvah. So therefore, for him, Chazal didn't make a takana of bechas haraya. And therefore, sorry.
This is at shul, not at home.
This is what happens. It doesn't make a difference where it happened actually, because home and shul are two separate mitzvahs, identical in type, but they're two separate chiyuvim.
If he's lit at home, effectively, as the shliach of the shul, he's not lit yet. He's not seen it yet. Is it madliking up the beso only helps if...
So normally you light first in shul, except if it's on a Friday. On a Friday you light first at home and then in shul. But for the moment, let's just take it. It doesn't make a difference because they're two separate mitzvahs, identical, but they're distinct. They're not the same. They're similar. Yes. So they are two separate mitzvahs. So it doesn't actually matter. Each one needs a bracha. So therefore, Reb Kiva Eger says like this. So therefore, he says that they're either those people. The Bach says there's somebody who's not lighting, but someone's lighting for him. He can still make a bracha. In fact, there's a stira in Shulchan Aruch, a perceived stira in Shulchan Aruch, because that's in Tov Reish Ayin Vov. It says over here that it's only somebody who hasn't lit, not going to light, and they're not going to light for him. He's the one who makes Birchas Haroya. In Tov Reish Ayin Zayin, Sif Gimel, Yesh Omrim she'af al pi shemadlikim alav b'soich beisai, im hu b'makim she'ein bo Yisrael madlik b'brachos. Mr. Bull already brings it over here. Seems to be a steer, somebody tries to be miyashiv it, brings it in the Shatzir. The Chofetz Chaim doesn't really like the issue of Lemaisa. It is, in practice, it is over here a question of different Rishonim say different things, and Shulchan Aruch seems to have quoted both, one in Tov Reish Ayin Vov and one in Tov Reish Ayin Zayin. So says Reb Kiva Eiger, even according to Tov Reish Ayin Vov, that he's lit, so therefore he hasn't got Birchas Haroya. Says Reb Kiva Eiger, nonetheless, he says, in such a case, he says, it's as if his wife is lighting for him. Certainly he's lit for himself. So he says, Hainu, that's the case, he says, is going to be given sheyotze b'adloka. Imkein, he says, hadloka ubirchosa ki ilu hidlik hu b'veisoy. Says Reb Kiva Eiger, if his wife is lit for him, a big chiddush. I don't know whether everyone agrees to this. A big chiddush. If your wife lights for you and you're not there, what about the brachas? Have you lost the brachas? She lit, so you got the mitzvah. Right? Nerish Shuvesa, husband and wife, it's sort of a hybrid. It's a dual mitzvah. One mitzvah between the two of them. So therefore, if our wives have lit for us, so we've done the mitzvah. It's as if we've done the mitzvah. Our wives light the Shabbos candles. That's as if we've lit the Shabbos candles. We normally light the menorah. It's as if they've lit them. But if they light it, it's as if we've lit it. What about the brachas? So I always thought, if you're not there for the brachas, you haven't got them. Whoever made the brachas, if I'm there at the same time, yes. But if I'm not there when whoever's lighting the menorah is going to be motzi me, I'm not there. I didn't hear the brachas. I don't have them. Says Reb Kiva Eiger, you get added the brachas to your brownie points. Yes, it's yours if you made the brachas because your wife lit for you. So therefore, in this case, normally, why don't you make brachas if your wife is lighting for you? Because not just she's motzi you with the brachas, she's motzi you with not just motzi you with the hadlaka, she's motzi you with the brachas too. But over here, no brachas have been said. Says Reb Kiva Eiger. Therefore, he says, if so, you should still be able to make certainly the brachas of Sha'as Nisim and Shechayonu if it's the first night, because you're no worse than a roya for whom no brachas have been said. Quite a chiddush.
The roya says it after he sees it.
Sorry?
When the roya says the brachas, before he sees it or after?
That's very interesting. The question of what about the roya? Who makes the bracha? So Rav Moshe Sternbuch, Shlita, so he asked the question, he's very disturbed. The Ramah says clearly, when we light the menorah, we're going to light tonight Mitzvah Hashem, we make both brachas before we start lighting, correct? Never mind, we'll come to Haneva Salalu a bit later. But first of all, the first two brachas, you've got to make the first two brachas first before you start lighting. Somebody else have caught before, say, hey, wait, just take the second bracha first, then start lighting. Of course that's right. The Ramah says that you have to say both brachas first. Along comes Ramesh Sternbuch and said, I don't understand. The second bracha Sha'as Nisim is a Birchas Haroya. How can you make the Shevach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sha'as Nisim Lavasenu? Nothing's been lit yet. And therefore, he edges towards saying that we should light up before you say the second bracha, so that you've got the Birchas Haroya on the second bracha. The Fian Yestaiti, the Ramah definitely says not so. And the Fian Yestaiti, the answer could be that when you light, when you're not lighting, you just see somebody else's menorah, and you haven't got a menorah to light. So in such a case, you're only a roya, so then it's a Birchas HaShevach. Praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the Nisim, for the Pirsum HaNes. But when you yourself are lighting, that same Sha'as Nisim Lavasenu, that becomes a Birchas HaMitzvah. Let me give you an example where we find this happens. You know, if you say want to make a bracha she'akoil, Borei Pri Adoma or 8, Borei Pri Agofen, etc., you can make a bracha. But if I want to be motzi you, because you want to make a bracha, I can't make a bro pregofen, a shakoilo, adoma, etc., unless I myself am eating. So that's the din normally with birchas hanenin. Now, when it comes to Kiddush, I've made Kiddush already, and there's a lady guest comes in a little late, and she comes in, she hasn't made Kiddush. So I'll make Kiddush again for her. How can I say bro pregofen? I'm not intending to drink. If I'm not, and if I am, I said bro pregofen already. So I don't need a bro pregofen. She needs a bro pregofen. So the din is that bro pregofen joins. Let's say it's Friday night. So Friday night we got 2 brachas bro pregofen, and then you've got after that Asher Kedishon mitzvos of Ratzavonu birchas mitzvos. So you're being Makadish the Shabbos. So that bro pregofen, which is coming to, as we do always, to take a kos shel yayin together with a dover shebekadusha. So that bro pregofen turns into a type of birchas hamitzvos. It adopts the dinim of birchas hamitzvos, that I can make a bro pregofen even if she's the only one who's going to drink now. And even if she weren't the only one to drink, I don't need a bro pregofen. I made a bro pregofen 5 minutes ago. So I don't need another, but I can make another bro pregofen for her, just like I can make Kiddush for her. And therefore that bro pregofen changes from a birchas hanenin, should we say from a pure birchas hanenin, into a birchas hanenin stroke birchas hamitzvos. Similarly, the birchas haroya of she'asa nisim, when you're actually lighting up, that she'asa nisim turns into a birchas hamitzvos, just like lahadlik ner shel Chanukah, which is Asher Kedishon mitzvos of Tzivonu. So therefore, the same would happen to this bracha, that in which case, l'chayra, that's the answer, and that's why the Ramah says you need to make both brachas first. The Ramah says it. The Ramah is, that's the way, that's the halacha. We make the bracha first, and that's the answer. So, sorry?
What would Rav Moshe say about Chris Megillah?
So Baruch Hashem, you can ask him. So you can ask him. So here we are. So now, when we've got this situation here. So that's what Rav Akiva Eiger wants to say. Then Rav Akiva Eiger says, anyway, she'asa nisim lavaseinu and shechayonu. There's a concept over las yoson. You're supposed to make the bracha before you do the mitzvah. But, says Rav Akiva Eiger, that doesn't apply so much to she'asa nisim lavaseinu. It's got to be while the nerus are burning. But the din of Ovel Asiyason isn't so sensitive when it comes to the bracha of She'asa Nisim Lavaseinu, because it's not a Asher Kidishonu Mitzvos of Tzivonu, which has to be before, or should ideally be before. We'll come to it in a bit later. But therefore he says, She'asa Nisim you can say. Why? Because it's still considered Ovel Asiyason, because you're still in the process of lighting, the neiros are still lit. It is immediately afterwards, and therefore he says that will do. But what about the concept that you're still going to light some more neiros? You've lit some of them. You've still got some of them to light. So what is the status of the other neiros? The other neiros count as only mahadrim mina mahadrim. They're not meka the mitzvah. Says Rav Akiva Eiger, he says, le'inyan birchas lahadlik, he says, l'chayra kvar gomar mitzvasa miyad k'shehidlik ner echad. You've done the mitzvah. He says, T'mar shemoisiv ha-neiros. The other neiros, rak machmas hidor mitzvah de lo shayich levorich olov. Says Rav Akiva Eiger, you can't make a bracha on the hidor mitzvah. Well, is that so sure? So the answer is, the Beis Yosef brings, should have it here somewhere. The Beis Yosef quotes. The Beis Yosef quotes the Orchos Chaim. The Kosov Orchos Chaim says the Beis Yosef on this simon. Mi shloi hidlik beleil shlishi elo shtei neiros. Somebody got mixed up, and they only lit 2. Well, did they get mixed up or not? Might be important. Oi beleil revi, or the third night elo shleisha. You only lit 3. This happened in France, in Lunel. This happened. Ve'chmiru, and the psak was, doesn't say who, but the Rabbonim then came to the decision that they were stringent. Sheyadlik mashechosa lahadlik. He should now still light what he didn't light. I presume it was still within the half an hour. Should still light. Ve'ein tzorich levorich pam acheres. Says the Orchos Chaim, you don't have to make another bracha. Why? Here are the critical words. Ki habrocha she'oso batchilo. The bracha that he made in the first place, al chiyuv kol haneros aso'ah. He made that bracha to cover all the obligation of his neros. No extra bracha. So, what's the din? Can you make a bracha? Do we make a bracha on just the hiddle? Do you make the bracha just on the hiddle? So the answer is, there's a machlokas. The Pri Chodesh and Elia Rabbah have a machlokas how to interpret this Orchos Chaim. The Elia Rabbah says, here's a clear raya from the Orchos Chaim that you do make a bracha on a hiddle. Why? Because the Lashon, ki ha-bracha she'osa batchilo, al chiyuv kol ha-neiros asa'ah. So therefore, that's why you don't make a bracha on the last ner, the third or the fourth, respectively, because you've already made a bracha on all your chiyuvim. So there is a chiyuv bracha on the last ner, but the good news is you made the bracha already. The Pri Chodosh, it would seem, learns differently. Question is how you stress it. He would say, Ki ha-bracha she'asa batchila al chiyuv kol ha-neirus asah. So he would say the bracha you made on the chiyuv doesn't go so well because of the word kol. But the Pri Chodosh definitely says there's no bracha on the actual Tosefes, on the Mahadrim and a Mahadrin, and Rekiva Eger seems to be going that way as well. There's no bracha.
The Lashon was ein sarach.
He says, ain't sorich levorich pamachas. Listen, the truth of the matter is, there's no such thing as sorich or not sorich. You either got a chiyuv or you mustn't. There's no halfway house over here. See, there's either an obligation or you mustn't.
There's a big hefset though in between.
Oh, so what was going on? Did he think that he'd lit the right number? And he didn't. In which case you might say he's not Mesiach Das really, because he thought. Or did he get mixed up which night it was? So I don't know. Nobody makes this chiluk.
Or he holds there's no din of Hesek and Hesek Das once you've been on the mitzvah.
Not sure, because the Pri Chodesh case is, the Pri Chodesh says, Kvar nishalti, hoya oimed leil zayin, kesovo shu leil vov. He says, vehidlik vov, v'chakach noida shu zayin, v'shetzorch lahadlik oidechod, im yevorich. He shavti, says the Pri Chodesh, given to mitzvahs Chanukah nei shuveisoi, and for one only, ner ishuveisoi one, ve'enach the other neiros having mishum hidu, loy boy livruchi, doesn't need to make a bracha. So in fact, that's maybe the worst case scenario, where he thinks it's the sixth night, he thinks he's done, and it's really the seventh night, so he's signed out. But nonetheless, the Pri Chodesh says he doesn't make a bracha because the Hiddur Mitzvah doesn't need a bracha. That's how he's learning.
It won't resolve the original problem.
Oh, so the original problem. So along comes Rekiva Eger, and Rekiva Eger says, Machlokes in Eli Rabbah and the Pri Chodesh, if Saladina, it should be Safek Brachas Lahakel. You can't make a bracha, you can no longer make Lahadlik Neshel Chanukah.
Something in halacha.
There's a machlokes apoiskim. So Rekiva Eger says machlokes Eli Rabbah and Pri Chodesh. What do you want from me? Rekiva Eger says so something, and therefore it should be Safek Brachas Lahakel. So Mik says Rekiva Eger Mikol Makom Ledina Nuali Benidain Didon Yesh Yismeichol Levarech. Says Rekiva Eger, I think in our case I'm going to give you various tzirufim to put together that you're going to be able to make a bracha. What are the tzirufim? So he brings a rosh in Pesachim. A very famous sugya about when you say le hadlik and when you say al natilas yodoim, when you say al natilas luv, when you say one, when you say the other. So the Rosh says the following. Rosh in Perek Aleph Siman Yud of Pesachim, he says the chol mitzvahs to nasois miyad shaykh levaruch alayhu al going al mikra megillah al atvila al natilas yodoim. But he says al afroshes truma, other examples, al achilas matzah, al achilas mora. Avol lehoniach tefillin, leisatev batzitzis. We could be here all morning because on your tefillin you actually make two brachas. One is lehoniach, and then you make Al mitzvahs tefillin. But let's just leave it at the moment, leave it as a contained unit. So we have over here, Loniach tefillin, lis ate patzitzis, you can be here as well. You can be here a second morning, because you've got al mitzvah tzitzis, the broch on the talis cotton. So he says, it's a subject, v'lei shei basukah. Why is this? And now he says the following. When you say le, it's because a mitzvah that takes time. Because you wear tefillin, you put your tefillin on, you wear them for the whole of davening. You put your talis on, you wear it for the whole of davening. Or your tzitzis, you wear it for the whole day. V'leishe basukah, you sit in the sukkah for, not just for a second, you're there for the duration of whenever. And he says, Ulahadlik ner Chanukah, he says, Yeshihu b'mitzvaso. It's a mitzvah that also takes time. Kedamina b'bamim adlikim, as the Gemara says in Shabbos, mitzvaso, misha tishoka hachamo, whenever that is, ad shetichla regel min ashuk. So therefore we see, v'chein mashma koil shofar, Yeshihu la'afsoko. Why? It's a very important rush this. Bein tekiyas, he says, the Ikka mitzvahs shofar al seder habrachas. The main tekiyas are the tekiyas that we blow in chazoras hashatz, not the first ones. So the bracha, till we get to the real mitzvah, which is the mitzvah together with the brachas al seder, that takes time. So any mitzvah that takes time, we say le. Says Reb Akiva Eiger, so the Rosh says this is a mitzvah that is taking time to do. When you light the neirus, you haven't finished the mitzvah. You've just started the mitzvah. Says Reb Akiva Eiger, according to the Rosh, you can still make the bracha because the mitzvah is still being done. It's a mitzvah that takes time. The mitzvah hasn't gone. It's not.
The mitzvah the whole time is lit.
Sorry? Even though the mitzvah is lit.
The Rosh implied the mitzvah the whole time is lit.
That's right. But if you actually put it out, physically put it out, you won't be yotza. If it goes out on its own, kopsa in zokukla. But if you actually put it out, you won't be yotza. So you need the half an hour. Sorry?
The mitzvah the whole time is lit.
That's what he's saying. It's a mitzvah that takes time. Like I'm putting on tefillin. I'm yotza the mitzvah of tefillin every second that I'm wearing tefillin. And when I'm wearing a talis and tzitzis every second of Makai mitzvahs. So when I light the menorah, the mitzvah is ongoing. That's what the Rosh says. Says Reb Akiva Eiger, you have this Rosh, and therefore it's still considered Ovel Asiyoson. Says Reb Akiva Eiger, in addition to this, you've also got Machlokas, Eliyah Rabbah, and the Pri Chodosh. And the third siruf who brings to this is that you've also got Rishonim who hold that Ovel Asiyoson you still got immediately afterwards. That's what he wants to say, immediately afterwards. So according to Eliyah Rabbah, you can make a bracha straight away, no problem. It's before you've done the continuation. According to the Rosh, you can still do it because it's the middle of the mitzvah. And according to this other Rishonim, which, by the way, when we wash our hands for Hamotzi, so we make the bracha after we've washed. Only there's a little shirayim left that we haven't dried our hands left yet. And even if you forgot after you dried your hands, it's explicit in halacha that until you said Hamitzi lechem and oretz, since the to'eles of the bracha hasn't been fulfilled yet, because you haven't yet eaten the bread, therefore you can still make the bracha al netilas yadayim. It's still considered ovel asiyosom. And our ladies who light Shabbos candles, they first light all the candles, cover their eyes not to have anor from the neirus, and then they make their bracha lahadlik ner shel Shabbos. They don't want to make the bracha before, because the Bahagu says that if you make the bracha before, you already make a Shabbos, you can't light. So therefore they make the bracha afterwards to be choshesh, not the Mekadin, we pass on that, to be choshesh for it. And it's still considered somewhat over Lasiyosam. Says Reb Akiva Eiger, with those three together, you should be all right. It's a bit of a kasha on Reb Akiva Eiger, actually. And there's a kasha from a well-known Tosfos there in Pesachim itself, which is a Pele. What's the kasha? Famous question Tosfos asks. we say the bracha, the Gemara is talking about Ha'iseh lulav la'atzmei, Mavorch shechyon v'kimon v'yon lazman hazeh. That's the midin as a Gemara, when you actually make up the lulav and tie it all together, you kosher and all, that's then he says, not leilot seisboi, when you pick it up to be yotze, and this is on Sukkos, oimer asher kedishonu mitzvayso v'tzivonu al netilas lulav. Says the Gemara, why are you making al netilas lulav? Why don't you say litoiles halulav? Shani osom de beidna de agbo nofikbo. Immediately when you pick it up, before you've shaken it, you're yotze already. So Tosfos says, oy vey. So you pick up your arba minim, you're ready yotze. How can you make a bracha? Too late, mitzvah's gone. And that's why indeed we pick up the esrog upside down. Then your Rabbi actually asks, you should pick them all up upside down, because you could be yotze with them sequentially. But not for now. So there we are. But we pick them upside down for that reason. So one teretz we pick them upside down. The other teretz Tosfos gives is that we have kavanah not to be yotze, because kavanah negdis explicit of not to be yotze works. But the third teretz in Tosfos is very disturbing when you think of it in terms of this Rekiva Eger. Says Tosfos, Afagav the nofek akati osik b'mitzvah shetzorich lenanea b'kriyas halel. You still got the trimmings of the mitzvah, the shirayim of the mitzvah you got, because you're going to. What do you mean? You've been yotze already. You picked up the lulav. You made the bracha. Say the very nice. We shake and hoidu on Hashem Mashiach, etc. Very nice. But you've been yotze the mitzvah already. Says Tosfos, even the trimmings of the mitzvah. You have the same thing with Milah on Shabbos, but never mind with other examples where you still got the shirayim. But indeed, when we dry our hands, that is also the shirayim of the mitzvah, because al netilas yadoim, you're supposed to dry your hands. So therefore, you still got some of the mitzvah there. So you've still got some of the mitzvahs, mafurish in Tosfos, that you can still make a bracha. And surely the mahadrin ben mahadrin, that should be still a shirayim of the mitzvah. Why didn't Rekiva Eger quote Tosfos? I don't have an answer for it. Why didn't he quote Tosfos? Surely Tosfos is another tziruf to say, even if you say you're not going to have a bracha explicitly on the hiddur, Mahadrin and Hadrin, because you thought that was it, and therefore you're Mesiach Das, but you should still say, at least if you're not Mesiach Das, you're intending to light all 8 neiros, as we will this evening, Mitzvah Hashem, you're still going to say that you're still oisik b'mitzvah enough to make al netilas lulav. So it should be enough to still to say lahadik neshel Chanukah.
Before Tosfos say you can lift up normal way.
Yes.
And then make a bracha, and it's still okay because you're going to do the shaking.
That's right. That's the third teretz. That's right. And you see some people, by the way, who do this. I don't know what their intention is. Maybe they have intention not to think. Some people don't want to pick up the arba minim upside down. They feel it's not covered for the arba minim to pick upside down. It's mentioned as one of the tirutzim. But therefore, they have explicit kavanah not to. Why do we pick it upside down? Because we don't trust our kavanas that we're going to have in mind. We go, oops, too late. So that's why we pick it up upside down to make sure in action we can remember. We know we have to do it this way, so we do it, and that's fine. But this, according to Tosfos, this is a teretz in Tosfos, that if you're still doing the nanuim, that's enough to still be enough over lasiyosom to lechatchila do it this way. And therefore, l'chayra, in the middle of lighting, surely the mahadrin, although nerish uvesei, should still be considered part of the mitzvah, enough to include it. Yes, sure.
Difference between taking the love on the first day in terms of the bracha, or the other days, which is really a minhag rather than a...
No, because the bracha's midrabanan anyway. Very good question, but the bracha's midrabanan anyway. Last thing I just want to mention, I've said a little bit of drush and then let you go. And that's the following, is that I hate imprisoning anyone, not in shul, not in the base of medrash. So here we have the following. Very interesting. The Mishnah Berurah brings 2 days about when you start saying Haneus Halolu. When you start saying Haneus Halolu. So he says that the minhag is, after you've lit the first light, you can already say Haneus Halolu. Now let's think about this one in terms of everything that we've talked about. According to, if we say, well, that the Mahadrin doesn't need a bracha. You can't make a bracha just on the Mahadrin. Like the Pri Chodosh and like Rekiva Eger, really without the Tzirufim, is leaning towards. So then you say, yeah, the Mahadrin is very nice, but you can continue. So you can say Aneus Halalu. But if we go like the Elia Rabbah, and like Reb Kiva Eger has actually leaned very heavily upon to say that and that is l'chayra, it seems to be the pashtus l'shainoi of the Orchos Chaim, one of the Rishonim quotes in the Beis Yosef. So therefore, the answer is that the bracha needs to go on the other neirus. So why are you singing Aneus Halalu before you've lit all of them? Be kasha. And l'chayra, Reb Kiva Eger is using this as one of his tzarufim over here to be able to be mati over here. So according to the Elia Rabbah, you shouldn't be saying Aneus Halalu until you finish lighting all the neirus of the night. Unless you say that it's not a hefsek, because it's the tzeirech, the hadlaka, to warn everybody we're just lighting up. If so, you could even do it before the first. But there is always more of a sensitivity when you're doing multiple mitzvahs. The greatest sensitivity is before you've started. So if I want to eat, if I'm eating an apple, I make a very pureate, I mustn't talk before I've taken not just the first bite, but I've swallowed a little bit. Then after that, I can talk. When it comes to Birchas HaMitzvahs and the shachtim are shechting all day, so then there's a greater sensitivity. It would in fact spoil the bracha if they talked between the bracha and the first shchita. But afterwards, although there is a hiddur not to talk, but there's reasons why they're makel, but there's less of a sensitivity between mitzvahs. So maybe the sensitivity would be more after that, not before you've lit the first ner, but you're saying something which is relevant to it. So immediately after you've lit the first, you're warning and we're reminding ourselves, Haneus Halalu, Ein lanu reshus leishtamish b'hem ela l'roisam bilvad. But according to the Elia Rabbah, l'chayra, the deo which says wait until you finish lighting them all, l'chayra, that pairs up with the Elia Rabbah that each neah itself has a mitzvah, has a bracha due to it. Only the one bracha that we make covers them all. So much so, if you didn't finish them all, the Elia Rabbah would say, make a new bracha just to be able to light the remainder. So here's something, just a little bit, there's much, much more, but I don't want to keep you. I just want a little piece of drush, if I may, because I think it's inspirational. It was to me and to people who heard it, just a new thought for the year. There are many nissim in Klal Yisrael. Many nissim we've been zeicher to. In fact, by Yom Mahim Bazman Hazeh in Eretz Yisrael, but many nissim galuyim. And this nes of Chanukah seems to be disproportionately allocated by Chazal, the mitzvah, and the whole of Klal Yisrael. It's 2,136 years ago, or something like that, since the Nes happened, and every single thing, every single person is being madlik, and there's not just the mitzvahs, there's a mahadrin, and there's a mahadrim in a mahadrin. And in fact, the Lashon of the Rambam, if I have it here, the Lashon of the Rambam, should have it somewhere. The Lashon of the Rambam says that this mitzvah is chaviva lonu ad ma'od. It's very chaviv. It's chaviva lonu ad ma'od. It's very chaviv. The Rambam says, and therefore l'chayra, it seems very strange. Why? What's the great fuss? What's the great fuss? Allow me to just read out the Lashon of the Rambam. I'm sure many of you have seen, but he says the following. He says, mitzvahs ner Chanukah, the end of ner Chanukah. Mitzvahs ner Chanukah, chavivo hi ad ma'od. V'tzorich odom lizoy bo, kedei lo di anesu lo hosiv b'shevach hakeil, v'yidoy aloi al anisim shasalonu. So every night that we light, the hidoy has to be more. The eighth night tonight, don't say, I've seen all before, donuts, donuts. The time you can get the least money for donuts the whole of the year is on the eighth night of Chanukah. Must be, that's it, finished. Don't look at another donut. No, says the Rambam, you're lighting more because we're Mosif Ha'ilech. Every night you're supposed to get more and more excited. What's going on over here? Why is this so disproportionately allocated? So I thought the following. Allow me in a very Jewish way to answer this question with another question. You know, beginning of Torah, Bereshis Ba'Elokim Eis HaShamayim V'Yisrael, everyone knows that. Good. Whether we know how to translate it so well is another question. But next pasuk, Va'aretz ha'sosohu v'avoyu v'choshech al pnei Yisraelim v'ruach Elokim rachefes al pnei hamoyim. The Medrash Rabbah, famous Medrash Rabbah in Bereshis. By the way, a definition of Bereshis of a famous Medrash is one that you know and you hope nobody else does. So there he says, so a famous Medrash is, basically says, so therefore it says like this, the Medrash says the following. Medrash says the following. He says, Tohu zegolus bovel. V'voyu zegolus modai. V'choshech zegolus yovon shichshichai neim shel Yisrael b'gzei v'seim shoysomeres lohem kisru al keren hashoy she'ein lochem chelik b'lekei Yisrael al pnei ha'tohim zegolus mamlechas harashah. That's Golus Edom that we're in. She'ein lohem cheke. We don't know where the end is going to come from. He says, so it's like Tohim, it's like a black hole. So he says, V'ruach elokim rachefes ze ruchoi shel melech HaMashiach be'ezes schus. The Medrash continues, Mamasheshe Subo. The Medrash says, Mamameshe Subo, Mrachefes al pnei hamoyim, b'schus hatshuva, shenim shelo kamayim, shneim hashivchi kamayim libeich, neichach pnei Hashem. That's what's going to bring it. By the way, that answers Mrachefes. Hovercraft, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Nah, it doesn't really go. What is Mrachefes? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. Well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting to land. He's just waiting for Hatshuva. But what's going on? Second pasuk in Torah, if you don't mind. 4 Goluyos. Bovel, Modai, Yovon, Edom. Please just at least let me get out of Mitzrayim first. Why are you telling second pasuk in Torah straight away? This new question that occurred to me this year. Why does the Torah HaKadosh, why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu, after the first pasuk, straight into the 4 Goluyos, Tohu, Vavohu, emptiness and void and darkness, up there to home, the whole depths of the dark. What's going on? Why second pasuk? So I want to suggest the following. Bereshis bo Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz translation is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world for the keeping of the Torah, for Yisrael, who would be the ones to keep the Torah. That's why Hashem created it. Along come the Goyim, and the Goyim say, fiddlesticks. The Goyim say, the places, there's no mission, there's no purpose in the world, there's no responsibilities whatsoever. I can do what I like. I can smash and grab, take whatever tickles my fancy at the moment. Tohu v'avohu v'choshech al pnei sahim. That's the goyim. That's what happens, and that's the way the world is going to look until v'ruach elokim rachefes al pnei hamoyim. What brings an end to the golus? A gilui that's not true. That's what it is. That's what happened when we came out of Mitzrayim, the Nissim, the Gedolos, the amazing Nissim that made Yisro, Mashmur, Sheshoma, Ubo. He came the Nissim. Those Nissim say it can't be right. It cannot be that there's no Seder in the world. It cannot be there's no purpose. It cannot be that there's no a creator and some controller and one who gives schar v'inish. And then suddenly the Golus is gone. That's what happens. And that's what happened to us when it came to the Nes of Chanukah. What happened was that the Yevonim were not just due to the seepage of living amongst them, but they were actively taking away, eroding and destroying what is most precious to the world, which is the keeping of the Torah. And the Yevonim and the Hashmonaim, they decided we're going to be Moser Nefesh. There are no limits, absolutely to the end, to the extent that we want to do the mitzvahs in the best possible way. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Meshane the Teva. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put nature to the side and says that the world was created for Kiyum HaMitzvahs. Nature is Meshubad, is subservient to the man, woman and child who wants to do the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore nature gets pushed to the side. A form of Kriyas Yamsuf happened there. And suddenly oil burns for as long as it's needed until the pure oil is ready. That was a gilui, an oil, a gilui that broke the golus. It brought us back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what it is. And it doesn't have to be a yid as well. What happened? Basio. Vatishlach es amoso. Desperate to save Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's it. Nature is not subservient to anything else except HaKadosh Baruch Hu and us who keep the Torah. And therefore the message that Chazal wants us to know, it's not just a miracle, it's an absolute yesod. It is an absolute foundation of every part of our lives. That if we want to keep Hashem's mitzvahs, nothing will stop us, even nature. There are no natural boundaries for someone who keeps them. Why? Because Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim. The world was created for Shmiras HaMitzvahs and for Limud HaTorah. And therefore, if we go away from Chanukah, which as we are about to leave Chanukah, and we go away from Chanukah knowing this is the message, that if we want to keep Hashem's mitzvahs, whichever mitzvah it is, not just basically, but Nahadrin min HaMahadrin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will push literally nature to the side. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will remove mountains and hills in order to make way for us to keep the mitzvahs. That's why Chazal made such a fuss. That's why this is the Arba Galuyas in the second pasuk in Torah, to teach us that the Goyim, the nations of the world, are trying to destroy everything that the world was created for. And it'll have to wait until the Ruach Elokim, Rachefes. When will that? That's our place at home. That's our job, to do tshuva and to be mischazik as much as we can, so that we can prepare the landing spot and the landing place, Be'ez Hashem, B'korab Yomeinu, for the Gilu Hashchina of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Ruach Elokim Rachefes al Pnei Amolim. Very good. Pleasure. Excellent.